Concordia's digital edition has now been released, and I'm going to give it a go and play a game solo to show you the gameplay here on Legendary Tactics. So I'm going to go up against a couple of hard AIs, and I haven't played Concordia in a little while because we didn't have a digital edition. I have played this game a fair bit, but it was actually before the pandemic lockdowns and everything, so it has been a couple years since I've had a chance to play. I'm probably going to be a little bit rusty, but I'm going to give it a go and against these a couple of hard robot opponents and see how I do. My general strategy, I like to certainly spread out early in the game if I can. You know, if I can grab a couple of cities right off the top. I like to grab a brick. I find bricks are really useful to have, especially because essentially every city or almost every city requires it, so it's a good idea to get one, and wine happened to be nearby as well, so I'll grab some wine. Wine's pretty useful for this as well, and if not, you can sell it off and make a pretty decent amount for that. So the game itself is pretty smooth. As I said in another video where I went through the tutorial, I don't know if it's the best way to learn how to play. If you're not familiar with this game, it would be really tricky. I'd feel a little bit overwhelmed with all the iconography and so forth. But I'm happy to report that if you are used to the game, it is a great way to play through a quick game. You know, maybe 15-20 minutes, depending on how much think time you require. Is actually a pretty, it's pretty good for that. And the map is nice. It's the music isn't too intrusive, and overall it seems to be pretty good. So I'm going to see how I hold up against an artificial opponent. As I said, I'm a little bit rusty, but I still remember the main principles of the game, and we'll see how I do. Just wanted to sort of take a look if I can get a couple cards early. The Mason is very affordable at this point. I don't know about the Farmer. It seems like pretty expensive. There's not really great cards in the lower tier at the moment here, though the Colonist is a good one. So I'm just trying to decide which direction I want to go, but I generally the tricky thing with this game, as it is with many Euro type games, is always going to be that tipping point. You typically in these type of games, you spend the first little while kind of building up your engine, and then it begins to there's like a midpoint where it tips to a point where you just have to start going after victory points, and you don't have to worry about expanding and building infrastructure anymore. So I'm just going to buy the first two cards. The Prefect is a good one. The Mason's, well, it's okay. If I need some brick to benefit from the Architect there, then that's fine. And I just paid with the brick, so I could, because I've got the Mason to get it back, so I'm not worried so much about that. But in this game, I find that the balance, finding that point when it's, you got to start switching over to going after victory points is always the trick. And so many games are lost because a player takes, either they go for victory points too early and they run out of gas, or they end up spending too much time building infrastructure and end up missing the boat for the victory points involved. So I like to have lots of serpentii, as they call it. I think I called it serpenti in my previous video. Lots of interesting pronunciations that I'm not as familiar with. As far as the gameplay goes, as you can see, playing against the AI is really great. I saw 10 serpent. I'll just call them dollars. $10 there. So I decided to go for that. I like to have lots of available cash flow in this game. But the AIs don't spend an inordinate amount of time thinking. So that part of it is great. It's they're not moving so fast you're not sure what they're up to, but they are fast enough that you don't feel like you're sitting around waiting for your turn. So I think they struck a good balance there, as far as it gives you enough time to kind of think about what you want to do, but before you know it, it's your turn again, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to activate Italia because I get so a lot of wine and my brick back, which is great. I'm kind of eyeing building in Massilia and kind of expanding that way. I need to I'd like to have, if I can, a balanced approach. At least that's the approach I remember taking before. Now, for the diplomat, if you look at Marcus and Agrippina at the top left, you'll see there's a little symbol in a circle. That's the card on top of the discard. So once you got the icons down, you can see that's a prefect and a mercator. So it's really great. Once you if you know the game and you know what to look for, I found it to be pretty intuitive overall. I'm pretty pleased with this implementation so far. It's just been released today, so I've only had a handful of games at it. But if you like this game already, I think this is well worth checking out, especially in these days where it might be hard to get out for gaming nights and so forth. At least you can polish your skills. I am kind of holding my own here against the AI, although I've fallen behind now, so I got to get caught up. I opted for the real-time victory point counter. From a training perspective, I think it's useful to it's more useful for you to see where you stand and how far you are behind before things get too out of hand and you have no way of getting back into the game. By the time you might do some manual calculations and figure out what you need to win. So I think that having the real-time victory points, if you're either getting refamiliarized with the game or if you're learning the game, I think it's a good option. And then once you know what you're doing, it may add a little more suspense and a little bit of fog of war if you're used to it. So I'm building some iron there, and I'm just looking to expand my empire a bit here to build in Cyrene and Massilia. I can do that. Both are pretty affordable, so I'm going to build in both. But I really need another colonist on the board as well, not only for to have an extra piece, but also to give my pieces more range as well. And so having the Tribune but no wheat and no I think I'm just trying to remember if it's brick or steel. Anyway, I can't afford to add a colonist right now, so that's unfortunate. And obviously you want to get into the carpet opportunity, where you're getting carpet goods, especially if you're looking to sell them, and they also allow you to buy the higher value cards. And as I was playing, oh sorry, it is one iron and one wheat for the colonist. I accidentally played the Tribune there, I didn't mean to, but you'll see me use the undo button a fair amount in this game. But the carpets are really valuable, not only because you can sell them for money, but also to allow you to buy the cards that are higher. They have just come out. They're further to the right of the card purchase track. And I was kind of fussing around with building getting my infrastructure up, and I need to just go to the market to buy up the materials that I need. I wanted to get some wheat here, and that would hopefully enable me to keep that good flowing. It's a tricky balance in a game like this. It's a tricky balance to figure out which goods you need, and in general what are the best goods to have, because they all have their place, and it depends where you're expanding to. Obviously, if you're looking to expand into somewhere like Spain, you need some wheat to do that. If you're looking to get into Germany, iron or carpets might be more valuable. You don't need the wheat, so you really have to have a plan. And I think that's what I was kind of missing in this game was just an overall view of, okay, this is what I need these materials, I'm looking to get these cards, I'm looking to get this kind of an engine going. And I think as I said before, I think it's just that switching between infrastructure and victory point gain that's the trickiest part here. But there's at this point I'm still not out of the game. I'm a few points behind, but that's where as you learn the game, you get to know the efficiencies. And that's true. I've got a good friend, actually the friend of mine who owns this game, and he's much more kind of mathematical than I am. I tend to make more decisions on instinct a lot of times, but he's someone that can kind of math these things out. And if you are that kind of player, you can do really well at this game. I find it's a good balance. If you're more of an instinctual player like myself, Concordia has a lot of fun in it. But if you're someone that loves like optimization and finding that ideal mix and balance between the different options, I think this game can give you a lot to chew on. There's a lot of room for optimizing your moves and playing out your deck. So with the purchase of a couple cities, I've moved into first place, so that's good. Not by much. Pretty close game. So we're going to see how this goes from here. But as I said, it's suddenly it's suddenly your turn every time. It's the AI goes boom boom, and then it's your turn. So you don't have a lot of time to think between turns. It's more when it becomes your turn, then the robots have to sit patiently while you math things out. So we're looking to buy some cards here. We need to buy some cards to stay ahead. We are at still in the lead, at least for the moment, but need to take some goods, so we're going to do that. What I really like about this game is the balance, and I think you'll hear that all the time when people talk about Concordia. It's so finely balanced. When you use the prefect to activate a province, as I did, Italia there, if your opponents have goods in that, towns in that province, they get the goods too. So you can inadvertently help your opponents. But if you're there first, you get these cities cheaply. So it's a really interesting setup for this game. So I'm kind of looking. I've got the senator there and trying to decide which of these cards are actually going to help me. Mercators are always great, and I just need to get some colonists on the board. So I'm going to aim to do that. So I'll just. I think I initially chose a brick, and then I changed my mind here, and I go with a wine just because wine's more expensive, but I have more of it. It's and the use of the diplomat as well is a really interesting dynamic. When you play the diplomat, you can play that card on the opponent's discard pile. So if you see an opportunity, right? Like for example, right now the diplomat is totally useless for me, because both the cards on their discard piles are diplomats. So they took advantage of my last play, essentially, to make sure that they got it. It's some they got some advantage from the card that I played. But it is a bit of a tricky card in the sense that it does require timing. You have to spot the card on your opponent's deck and take the opportunity. So it's a opportunistic card. I typically don't buy a ton of them just because I can't rely on them, but they're great. They're not a dead card by any stretch, and they can actually give you a lot of kind of extra moves. Like if you need an extra mason or prefect or colonist or whatever, you can utilize the play of your opponent. So there's a lot of like really intriguing mechanics in this game, but it's not hard to play. It's not hard to think through. I would say that for me, I did find this a little bit harder to play compared to the cardboard version. I find the cardboard version is a little more, interactive. Like in this, as sometimes is the case with digital implementations of games. Sometimes because the math is handled so automatically, you don't have the same interaction. The way I kind of think of it is like it's the difference between having actual currency in your wallet, like dollar bills or whatever in your wallet, versus swiping a bank card or a credit card. You tend to lose the connection with that aspect of the game, the kind of the manual calculation, because you have to calculate everything manually. So it's something where you tend to think it through a little bit better. And whereas if you're in the game, it's a lot easier to just click, that's probably fine, So anyway, I was looking for some wheat here for some more cities. That was my goal here, and I'm just kind of eyeing the cheap options that are around and trying to figure out what would be the best kind of trade here. And I really needed that first trade. I don't know if I need the second trade. But I'm kind of just, I'm a little bit short on money too, so compared to where I want to go, which is to get into another carpet zone, a carpet city. So, it's an interesting challenge, but as I said, sometimes the you lose a bit of connection with the math part of it, I find. Especially if you're like me, you're just impatient, and it just feels harder to do manual calculations in a computer game because it is done automatically. It is so easy. So I finally set up my colonists, and in retrospect, I think this is probably a little bit too little, too late. The game's already beginning to switch. I think this is basically the pivot point. And really, I'm a little bit late to be building more infrastructure at this stage. But this is when you are, learning the game. And as I said, I had played it a reasonable amount before the lockdown. But that's already been a couple years now, probably since I've had a chance to play this game. So. But I really wanted to put this video together for you guys so you could see how the gameplay is, and I find it's very smooth. But again, as long as you know what you're looking for. This one was a tough decision. Do I produce in an active province? I need the goods, but $9 is pretty tempting, so I'll take that for now and reactivate some provinces, and we'll just go from there. I've got my Mason. In retrospect as well, the Mason, those cards which produce goods, very good in the late game, especially if it's something you're building towards. I don't know if brick is the Mason card itself is the best one of those, probably the carpet one would be far more useful, especially if you're in a few spaces with carpets. It can really give you a boost. I'm also a big fan of trying to play my entire deck through, if it makes sense. I don't. I try and make the best of what I can, and maybe I should have just picked up my hand instead of playing the Mason, but because it is a bit of a, not a wasted card maybe, but I probably could have taken better plays if I'd picked up my cards a little bit earlier. So it's all beginning to come back, but anyway, yeah, the Mason was probably a bad purchase, and so I'm kind of stuck with it anyway. And now I'm finally able to expand my empire a little bit, and I realize, oh my gosh, I don't have the goods that I need to make that happen. So I'm going to pick one which gives me a wheat and a carpet, which is great. And then I noticed that my opponents are buying up cards, and I'm still doing okay in points, like a middle of the pack, but I'm beginning to fall behind Marcus. Marcus is really doing well, so I'm thinking, geez, I gotta pick up some cards, and I've only got the one senator, so this is going to be my play. I'm going to pick up that consul. I can't get a second one, so I'm going to have to do something else, or but I don't really have the resources to do it. You see how the carpets become so valuable, especially in the later game. I would say, they really are the most crucial good on the board, and so it's well worth making sure you have strong production in that good. That's gonna win you games. And now I've fallen into last place, so I think my inefficiencies are beginning to show here. There's probably some players yelling at the screen as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I don't feel my play is absolutely terrible, but it's definitely not up to par. I will be doing some other videos as I get back into the game and start playing it more. We'll be showing you how to beat the hard AI. As I've said in many of our videos before, playing against the hard AI, some people complain that it's at a certain point it's beatable, and you can easily crush it, and it's just not the same as playing against a human opponent. But I've often thought that the hard AI, if you view it as a training tool, to get yourself up to a level where you feel where you can at least compete with a human player. You're not going to embarrass yourself. If you're crushing the hard AIs in any of these digital games, you're going to do pretty well against a human. You may not win. There's certainly better players in any situation, but I just think that you're going to you're going to have the the skill level to at least be competitive in this case. So here I was looking to make a bit of a power play and get my colonists, my newfound colonists, out there and see if I can do some building. I'd calculated carefully my math, and I'm going to be able to build 3 cities, so that should help out with some victory points and get me a little bit back in the game. So I've pulled ahead of Agrippina with that play, and so I just need to make sure that I'm making the most of the play. There's 3 cards left in the card row, so we are approaching basically, I've got maybe 2 turns left here, so I've got to make the most of it. The only problem is I don't have a lot sort of in the tank as far as what I can what I can do at the moment. The Mason's useless at this stage, the colonists useless. I'm looking at kind of the diplomat, maybe to use the prefect, get some goods. I've got 2 prefects in hand, 2 mercantors in hand, so there's options. I'm going to use Marcus's prefect, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's 10 bucks or activate a province, but I'm going to activate the province, get some goods, load up on some wine, see if I can make sure I've got as many goods in the storehouse, which are worth victory points, of course, at the end. So yeah, I'm just trying to scramble right now because I'm really falling behind at this point, and even Agrippina is catching up. So gonna at this point, I'm kind of thinking aiming for a strong second, especially as there's one card left in the row and I don't have the carpet I need to buy it. So here I'm thinking, oh, is it even worth getting a carpet? The you know, because I'm probably not going to have enough time to you know, to buy that card. I don't even have the, you know, the senator or anything in hand to actually buy that card. So, you know, I don't know if there is a good move at this stage, especially since I'm you know, so far behind Marcus. But Marcus really surged. So yeah, just kind of undecided here as to what my best move is, if anything. So I just decided, well, you know what, I'll buy some goods, and you know, hopefully that'll count for something victory point wise. We're only 4 up on Agrippina at the moment, and not anymore. Agrippina triggered the end game condition, and so gets 7 victory points for that, and we have I have 1 move left, and Marcus has 1 move left here. So don't really know what to do. I was just thinking, well, let's get as much money as possible, because the prefect, triggering the prefect at this point, I can't fit any more goods. So just kind of playing around with what might be the best possible setup here. And then I was thinking, well, you know what? If money is the goal, let's keep the goods, and let's just play the prefect for the money. And yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of cards that just aren't going to serve me well at this stage. So probably the prefect. They're just kind of scanning through and seeing, oh, geez, what's going to make sense. So I'm hoping for the Vesta scoring there. You know, getting 14 bucks, not too bad. But it only doesn't give me a lot of victory points, unfortunately. And I just didn't have what I needed to make it happen. So it's the end of game sales of goods, and we do that, and I finish 3rd. So as we take a look at the scores, Marcus had a you know, pretty decent final turn, finished with 128, Agrippina with 100. I wasn't far off, but yeah, it was not perhaps my best game. But it's my first game in a couple years. I just, as I said earlier, I just wanted to show you the gameplay, show you how this digital edition works, and kind of give you that first look, so you can see if this is an app that you would like to purchase for yourself. And so I hope that kind of gave you a good idea, and I thank you so much for watching. This is Legendary Tactics.